Yeah, absolutely.
James, good to see you. We're zooming an interview here, aren't we? I was trying to remember how we got started. I know there was the project, but you actually got started with resin work before I knocked on your door because I knew you were doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I started working with resin about a year ago. I have been following resin artwork as it pertains to woodworking for years now, watching creators that I like that integrated into their woodworking. And so about this time last year, I started trying to incorporate resin into woodworking, and had a lot of success, and it was really fun. But yeah, I didn't really kind of bring it to its full potential until you and I started collaborating with the ceramic pieces.
Yeah, and you were mostly casting the resins, weren't you? Isn't that kind of the way it was working?
Yeah, the until we started working together, I was casting resin with woodworking, and essentially making blocks that were part resin, part exotic hardwood, by casting it in forms, and then I sand or carve or do whatever to shape it afterwards. But yeah, I was casting it in solid blocks before now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I called on you when my a client came and he was asking for something, and I said, I don't think I can quite get that with the glaze. And I thought about you, and you were willing to give it a try, so that was kind of fun. That was a big risk for both of us because we had to do what we ended up doing about 8 samples before we finally got something.
Yeah, and prototyping the contraption that actually makes the process possible. And I went through 3 different iterations of that, and some of those first pieces that we produced were on contraptions that are no longer with us until we got to our current form that's really robust, and you can do all different size pieces on it. But yeah, there was a lot of trial and error and a lot of learning, and we're still learning. It's really wonderful.
Sure, sure, yeah. And I think that spurred me on. I know because it was a fun project to do, and the results were so good. The client was just thrilled with it, and so was I. I couldn't believe what a beautiful job you did on the final piece, and several of the ones that were leading up to it. So let's try making a few more. So then the challenge became, what kind of forms can I make, and what avenues can we go down? And that's been fun to explore. And you've encouraged me to try different shapes and glazes. I think Liz actually suggested, why don't we try a white background instead of a black one or something like that.
Yeah, it's amazing how much the glaze, that's essentially the canvas that the resin's going to go on top of, has such a dramatic effect on the kind of inner light of the final piece. The difference between a white or a lighter glaze and a dark background, a black glaze, 2 pieces that have the exact same palette of resin on them that I'm doing at the same time. I call them like a brother and a sister piece. And if one's got dark glaze and one has light glaze, they have a very finished, very different finished feel. One has kind of an inner luminosity, and the other darker glaze will give it a kind of a richer shadowed kind of background. And it's really dramatic. You would have never thought when we started that would have such a huge impact on the final product.
Yeah, yeah. And that exploring process, I find exciting. As an artist over the years, I've always, if I can put myself into a corner where I've got to experiment myself out, I like doing that. So, one of the things that I've been pleased with is that we've been able to end up with a body of work here with our Voorhees Family Art Show coming up this weekend that we get to present, kind of like, know, we worked real hard. We've come up with, what is a really nice grouping of art objects to offer to the public so they can, whether we sell any or not, at least they get to look at kind of the development and what some of the possibilities are. And it's the same for us. You know?
Yeah, and this is kind of I would call it our 3rd generation of products that we produced. We had kind of 2 generations of things developing that the original piece, and this is our 3rd generation of work. It's our 1st generation under Stellar Objects, and they're all very different and unique, and they all show off different features of the process in their own way. That's really lovely. And I love how the ceramic and resin both get to shine in each piece. It's really cool.
Yeah. I've forgotten how we came up with the name Stellar Objects. I love it though.
Yeah, I think you and I both were playing around with words and phrases that these pieces evoke, and every time that we look at them and talk about them, we talk about stars and nebulas and vistas through deep space telescopes, and that's what most of the pieces really evoke. And so I can't remember if you said or if I said the word stellar, but it really resonates, and so we just stuck with it.
Yeah. Well, thanks. And I look forward to people listening to this and to taking a look at our newest release of work for them, the premiere of it, I guess, actually. So thanks for watching, everybody. And hope you can visit us during the Family Art Show.